Hey, we're back. We're doing another video today. What I want to show you guys today is, or at least go through some of the sounds you might hear when you're playing with a chipley. And these sounds are gonna be fairly, universal for different chipley markers. And if you start hearing some of the stuff, maybe sort of how to go through and cure some of the problems. Okay. Now, one of the things I noticed on a Series 6, Series 5 setup, but these can go on 6.5 and T2s as well, is that you can get them out of balance in a way. What do I mean by that is you can get too little pressure into the marker and too much spring pressure down here just from being, out of the setup's not right, and you'll get venting down the barrel when the marker fires, and it sounds like this when it's being shot. And it leaks down the barrel until you recock it. Okay? If you have a terrible case of what we call leak down the barrel, that's what it's going to sound like, and that is awful. Now, if we back off the spring a little bit, I think we can get you a sound that sounds like chuffing. And I use the word chuffing meaning it's expending too much air. Air's coming in at a lower pressure. The hammer's hitting it too hard in a way at times, and it comes out and you waste a bunch of air behind it. Let's see if we can get it to chuff. I don't know if you can hear the difference, and what I probably should do, in fact, let me get a different gun here. I've got a J2L on top of it. This is what a J2L sounds properly tuned. Nice, deep, quick pop. Okay, let's listen to this chuff. Hear that? Poof, poof, as opposed to... I hope you can hear that difference. So if you've got a chuffy gun, or you've got a gun that's leaking down the barrel every time you pull the trigger, you've got a problem with balance most likely. You could also have something in the valve, but let's start simply. Let's double check our settings, okay? We want to make sure that the spring is not too far in back here, and we want to make sure we check the reg pressure, okay? So what we're going to do here, we're going to turn the marker off, clear it of any residual air, all right? Take off the macro line fitting, and we're going to test it. Grab our tester, screw that into here, and we're going to grab the tank off of here. We want to make sure we use the same tank. Now, we're out in the field, we don't have a lot of choices. It's not like we're just grabbing, tank after tank after tank. And we're going to test that on there. So we have the reg testing kit. We put this on here, and we're going to see how many PSI that we're at. Look at there, 200 PSI. Problem. Not enough pressure into the gun, not closing the valve fast enough. So what we want to do is turn this up to about 300 PSI. 1, 2, 3, and that's about right there. Double check that. You can also use your reg tester either whether you're using a quick disconnect or on something else to check the recharge. If you see that needle barely budges, that means that regulator is doing its job. Not only is it regulating quickly, not only is it regulating, but it's also regulating quickly. So we've reset our reg to about 300, a little over. I think I got about 325 now. We're going to put that back on the gun. Okay? And put this back together. Looks like our IVG is about right on its distance in. So let's grab our tank and see if that sounds any differently. First of all, we started with, it blasting down the barrel every time. Now, hopefully we've stopped that, and we've also stopped the chuff. Pump the marker before you air it up. It airs up and it doesn't leak. That's good. Now, compared to that sound, almost identical. Probably the difference is in the barrel. So, if you've got some of that leaking and chuffing down the barrel, check that input pressure, 300, 325, and sometimes if you've got to go really far in with the IVG just to get it up to velocity, you might want to up your pressure into your gun a little bit to close that valve in here faster and shut it off. What's going on is, there sits our valve, right? The valve is getting hit by the hammer and opening, which lets air by and lets air up the air passage here, the air hole, out the barrel, out the bolt, and out the barrel. If it stays open too long, I'll show you that up close. You want it to just pop, 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 but not close so fast that you can't get your velocity up enough. So it's a little bit of a balancing act. You want your input pressure to be balanced properly against your spring pressure. I find 1 or 2 turns in on the IVG and 300 to 325 PSI, or set it at 350 like Rod sets it from the factory. That's a good default. You're going to be good money with that. But that's one of the sounds you might hear out of a CCM, and what to do to take a look at it. If that doesn't solve the problem and you start to get leak down the barrel, the next thing is to go take out the valve and replace the valve. What's a leak down the barrel sound like? Well, I can simulate one fairly easily with this T2 here. So I'm going to air it up. You can hear that slight leak down the barrel. What that means is that sound, especially if it's very slight, generally means that this O-ring needs to be replaced on the valve. Just that simple. It's that sound that you want to hear. It doesn't happen real often. It means that either there's something in there. Clean it first, reassemble it, see if that works. Look for nicks on the O-ring. If not, order new O-ring from CCM and just replace that on the valve.